Boy, with the Dahmer series coming out recently, I tried to watch it and only got through the first episode, though I did skip through some uncomfortable parts. It was hard for me to stomach, which is okay. It isn't supposed to be something you should be comfortable watching. It is based on real lives and real victims. However, if you are unlike me and were able to stomach through it, do not boast about it online. Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. This channel is run by two sisters and I'm your host Star. Today I am ashamed of grown people on the internet who should know better. If you're curious, continue watching, and as a reminder, English captions are available. Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, is a retelling of the life and crimes of Jeffrey Dahmer, a serial killer who ended up killing, raping, and dismembering 17 black and brown boys and men. Starring Evan Peters, this series starts off with Jeffrey's last victim, Tracy Edwards, and then gets into his younger life by the start of the second episode. Despite being a hit on Netflix, Dahmer has been met with criticism, and rightfully so. Family members of the victims have stated how this show has re-traumatized them, especially since the folks over at Netflix didn't have the audacity to inform the families that they will dramatize their pain. One of the victims, Earl Lindsay, who was lured back to Jeffrey's apartment while on an errand, was killed by Dahmer and disposed of. During Dahmer's trial, his sister reader Isabel gave a tear-jerking and sorrowful speech that the show recreated. From an insider article that she wrote, she states, "The reason why I said what I said during that impact statement was because the trial, they were portraying him as being so out of control he couldn't stop himself. But you have to be in control in order to do things that he was doing. So that's why I said, let me show you what out of control is. This is out of control. I was out of body. I wasn't myself in that moment." When talking about the show and how she felt, she stated, "I don't need to watch it. I lived it. When I saw some of the show, it bothered me, especially when I saw myself. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought that it was me. That's why it felt like reliving it all over again. It brought back all the emotions I was feeling back then. I was never contacted about the show. I feel like Netflix should have asked if we mind or how we felt about making it. They didn't ask me anything. They just did it. But I'm not money hungry, and that's what this show is about. Netflix trying to get paid. I could even understand it if they gave some of the money to the victims' children. If the show benefited them in some way, it wouldn't feel so harsh and careless. It's sad that they're just making money off of this tragedy. That's just greed." I agree with Rita, because who is the show for? Who are other shows like this for? Definitely not for the victims, their families, or friends. Especially with this series where there's so much other media about this story and serial killer, why make another? If not for money. If not to capitalize on the rising and popular media of true crime, a media that has a history of insensitivity and participants who are insensitive with the way they choose to cover or speak about real-life events. It is not only Netflix and Hollywood being thoughtless to the dead victims and their families with doing yet another Jeffrey Dahmer story through his perspective. No, it is also the fans. True crime fans on TikTok who are also heartless and don't know common sense or how to critically think to understand whether or not they should post their thoughts on a show that dramatizes the trauma of the victims without their family's consent, or a show that depicts crimes against mostly black and brown boys and men, a group that white women aren't a part of, yet they are so inclined to dish out their baffling thoughts about it and their accomplishments for watching it. It's weird that Jessica, Rachel, and Sarah went to boast that they watched this show. Don't believe me? Let's get into it. So at the time of writing, I was scrolling through TikTok earlier in the day. An audio from the show was trending that I was unfamiliar with. The video that was talking about the audio that I saw was saying how weird white people under the sound are when referring to the show. When I clicked the audio, I was met with hundreds of videos talking about the same thing. And every time I checked on the audio again, the videos kept growing. A lot of people are built differently and are comfortable with different things. Though being a fan of horror or thriller and being able to stomach through that genre unlike other people, which is okay, I can't stomach through true crime, especially a horrific crime that has to do with my people. It is already known who Jeffrey Dahmer chose to victimize, and it is sad how many people's lives came to an end. And with that knowledge of Netflix not telling the victims and their families or paying them for dramatizing their pain, I am bewildered that white people could be so insensitive to the victims to boast about how they were able to watch the show and even eat while doing it. That's not even the craziest thing. Some say that they want the murders to actually be shown in the show or for it to be more gorier. Another person wore an earring of Dahmer, while another lady said the bizarrest thing. This TikTok reads, "I'm so over all this you should be ashamed, and I'm disgusted because nonsense. Let people enjoy things. Y'all come on here and try to make people feel terrible for watching a show or being interested in something you find terrible. Some of us prefer Dahmer, some of you prefer the Kardashians. To each their own." What the F? How is any of that comparable? You like and idolize a serial killer and cannibal, while others idolize rich celebrities, their lives, and drama. Those individuals are not the same in gender, occupation, lives, jobs, etc. Clearly, something has to be off if you get angry at people putting the victims, their families, and their safety first over anything else. And to get upset with people not liking the dramatization and idolization of Dahmer, who preyed on black and brown people, means you like that portrayal and are upset people find people like you disgusting. And this person isn't the only one. Another person said how they are addicted to serial killers and have an obsession with it. Also saying how they think he was the most sane killer because he admitted how evil he was. Once again, what the F? She even goes to her comments and agrees with how she and others could relate with him, or how he's self-aware since he didn't boast about it. Let me make it clear for all the white people, or people in general, who need to understand something. You have no right to say if a killer was sane or not just because they admitted to what they did. You were not affected by Dahmer and his horrific crimes. The victims and their families could not express the same sentiment about how sane he was when he killed so many people of their loved ones. How dare you smile and be happy about any of this? How dare you express your excitement, boast about your accomplishments of watching this, or even get upset with how you wanted more when there are people who are dead, some incredibly young, and will never live the rest of their lives, while their families still grieve decades later, while their families will still get affected decades later when Hollywood think it's okay several times over to dramatize their pain in a show or movie without their consent, knowledge, while you get to eat it up every single time because you are obsessed because you can stomach it and munch on snacks because you aren't repulsed. At your grown age, you can be so crass and rude because this doesn't affect you? Jeez, you people are horrible. And let me clear things up. I'm not a fan of true crime and I don't watch the content. If I ever do, it is if or when the families are involved to tell their side and pain, such as in documentaries. I hate dramatization of crimes, and I hate it even worse when it is told from the perspective of the killer time and time again, with the victims being used as a plot point to drive the narrative and benchmark the killer's life. And this all gets worse when people talk about how they can relate to Dahmer, or when they start to blame the victims for willingly trusting Dahmer and going with him. How tone deaf can you be to sympathize with the murderer? Y'all are disgusting. And to Netflix, who said this show was gonna be used to tell the victim's stories and not show it through Dahmer's perspective, and then proceed to show it through his perspective and monetize from it. You should also be ashamed of yourselves. 17 victims, 17 families, decades, generational trauma, and no one was aware of the series. Do you see how grave the situation is? People aren't just calling you out for no reason or bashing your love for true crime. They want you to understand that you come across as ignorant, and how you choose to express your love doesn't rope in the victims and their families and their feelings. I do not hate or am disgusted with anyone watching, hearing, or reading true crime. I am disgusted with people being insensitive to the victims so they can make a TikTok about how they can watch a crime or multiple crimes and boast about themselves being able to do so. I am disgusted when people don't treat this case with care as I do with others, especially when this involves POCs and those a part of the LGBTQ plus community. I am disgusted that people are applauding a show that wasn't even run by the families first, and this isn't even the first time this has happened. I am disgusted by people taking a real life event and talking about it as if it's fiction. Be into true crime, that is okay. Learning about events that take place, that is okay. But don't stomp on people's graves and be insensitive online. I think an argument can be made saying, why does my point, why does my outrage or disgust matter? Why do people have to listen? Who gave me the authority to say anything I have said in this video? Understandable. I am expressing my opinions and thoughts like many people did in the TikToks. I will say the only difference is I took the time to listen to what these families have to say. I took the time to understand that this isn't something for me, and I took the time to handle this with care and be considerate to the family's feelings and grief, which many fans have not done or refused to do. When reading the script to my sister Jen, we came across an article that provided the names of the victims and info about who they were. When reading through the piece, I stopped at the name of Anthony Hughes, a deaf man and one of Dahmer's many victims. During Dahmer's trial, his mother recounted a poem Anthony's friend wrote through Anthony's perspective. And when I read this aloud to my sister, we immediately choked up and cried. It reads, "Mom, I'm gone. My hope, my breath, my want to live have been taken away from me unwillingly. But yet, I'm not far away. When you get cold, I wrap my arms around you to warm you. If you get sad, I softly grab your heart and cheer you up. If you smile, I'll smile right along with you. When you cry, take one teardrop and place it outside your window ledge, and when I pass by, I'll exchange it for one of mine." 2 fingers and 1 thumb, Mom. She then held up 2 fingers and 1 thumb, the symbol for I love you in sign language. I urge you to take a minute, maybe several minutes, and think about what happened to the victims, what their families and friends are going through, how they are reliving their trauma time and time again with yet another Jeffrey Dahmer story, with yet another retelling of their trauma through the killer's eyes. And think about how what you say can affect the victims' families, especially the victims' younger family members, since many of the victims were fathers. They have kids and grandkids alive who see your idolization of their loved one's killer. To these people, please take your videos down and educate yourselves on the victims through their families' words and not moneymakers like Netflix. Think about your insensitivity and how tone deaf you are to the story when real people and their lives were involved. When real people are killed and ended up used as a form of entertainment for Netflix to make more money from. And if you can't see what is wrong about your statements or about how people dislike the show, then the problem is not others like me calling you out. The problem is you. Your commentary about your desensitivity is not needed online. Go and check yourselves seriously. On that note, have a good day. Thank you.
Every white person under the sound talking about how they've watched the Jeffrey Dahmer Netflix series and are completely unfazed and unbothered is just proof of what black people have been talking about for eons now. You guys do not care and lack empathy for black people, our experiences, what we had to go through, all of that. You know what I'm saying? And whenever you tell a white person this, they'll always respond with, "Oh no, I'm not racist at all. I love black people. My best friend is black. My right?" But look at what you guys post and look at what you guys do. Your true colors always show. They always show. Cause I mean, look at what you guys are posting. You guys have watched an entire series show where this white man has brutalized and tortured black gay men, black LGBTQ men, and haven't gotten taken seriously by the police at all. And you're completely unfazed and unbothered by that. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on.